Hello and welcome to the craft room in my 1902 farmhouse. My name is Alicia with Country Mama Musings, and today we're going to be completing this beautiful block 57, the alternate mesh stitch for our heirloom Afghan crochet along. So grab your supplies and let's get started. So for block 57, we're going to be using our size H crochet hook and whatever color you've determined to be color C. For me, that is teal. So we're going to go ahead and get started on block 57, the alternate mesh stitch. Say that 5 times fast. We're going to start with a slip knot, leaving yourself a nice long tail that you can sew in later. We're going to chain 27 loosely. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 25, 26, and 27. So here's our beginning chain of 27. Let's move on to row 1. For row 1, we're going to place a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So not counting the loop that's already on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to place a double crochet right there in that chain. Now we're going to place a double crochet in each chain across. So moving to our next chain, a double crochet. Going to our next chain, a double crochet. And you're going to work this all along your chain. I'll meet up with you when we get here to the end. We're here to the end of row 1. We're going to place double crochet right here in that very last chain. Don't forget that very last one. Let's remove our hook here and see how things are looking. It's going to curl up a little bit. That's okay. You want to have 25 stitches when you get to the end of row 1. So that may be a little tricky when you count. This chain that we skipped here, these chains that we skipped, this is going to count as a double crochet, so it counts as a stitch. So let's count our stitches across. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So you want to have 25 stitches. If you only count the number of double crochets that you put in, your count's going to be off and you're going to be frustrated. So remember, for this block, these 3 chains that we skipped count as a double crochet. This counts as a stitch. So that may come into play when we finish up our row 2. So keep that in mind. Speaking of row 2, let's move on. For row 2, we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This chain 4 represents a double crochet. The first 3 counts as a double crochet, and then the 4th one is going to remain counting as a chain. Let's go ahead and turn our work, and we're going to skip the next double crochet. Now, since this is a double crochet, it's connected to this stitch right here, so we're not counting this one. This is already connected. We're going to skip the next stitch right here. We're going to place a double crochet in the next stitch way over here. So we have a little bit of a gap. So when you start this row, you actually have a double crochet, chain 1. You're skipping a stitch here, and then a double crochet. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to skip the next stitch and place a double crochet in the next. And that's going to be our pattern all the way across. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet in the stitch after that. There we go. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet in the stitch after that. You're going to continue to do this for row 2 all the way across. I'll meet up with you down here at the end. Coming up here to the end of row 2, we're going to skip a stitch and place a double crochet right here. And then when we get to the end, don't forget these chain 3 count as a stitch. So we're going to chain 1. We're going to skip this stitch. It's hard to see when you look at the top there. Skip this stitch here, this double crochet. We're going to place a double crochet in the top of this chain 3 that counts as a stitch. And do your best to get 2 loops on your hook there, so it really gives it some stability. There we go. Let's take our hook out and take a look at row 2 for our alternate mesh stitch. So we have a solid row here, and then we have a row of double crochet with chain 1 spaces in between all the way across here for row 2. This looks funny, but once we get our next row on and we put a stitch right here, it's going to kind of pull this over, so don't panic about this. This will straighten out when we get to the next part of our block. Hey, are you enjoying putting together all of the beautiful heirloom sampler blocks for our heirloom Afghan crochet along? If so, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, check out the playlist that has all of the videos for every block for our crochet along, and be sure to share the video with your friends that like to crochet. Okay, let's get back to our project for this week. For row 3, we're going to chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3. This counts as a double crochet. We're going to turn our work, and we're going to work across row 2 here in a different fashion than row 2 was. This chain up 3 counts as a double crochet that's connected to this double crochet here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to place a double crochet in each chain 1 space and each double crochet across. And again, we should have 25 stitches when we get to the end. So this counts as 1. We're going to place a double crochet in this very first chain 1 space. No chains in between this time. We're going to go to this next double crochet, and we're going to place a double crochet in the top of this double crochet stitch here. Make sure when you go into your stitch, get both loops on there. Get the front and back loop on there. It gives you that added stability. There we go. Moving on to our next chain 1 space, placing a double crochet. Going to our next double crochet stitch, placing a double crochet right there in the very top of that double crochet. There we go. We're going to continue this same pattern all the way across till we get to the end of row 3. Again, placing a double crochet in a chain 1 space and a double crochet in the top of the next double crochet. Work that all the way across. You're going to end up with another solid row just like row 1, and I'll meet up with you there. We're coming up here to the end of row 3. I've just completed a double crochet in the top of this double crochet. This is our next chain 1 space right here. But don't forget this chain 3 here counts. This was actually a chain 4, but 3 of it counts as a double crochet. So count up 1, 2, 3, place a double crochet right there in that chain. Again, doing your best to make sure you get 2 loops under your hook there just for some added stability, and complete that double crochet. Let's take our hook out here and take a look at our block. Again, we should have 25 stitches. This chain up counts as a stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So you have another row of double crochets with no spaces in between. Let's take a look back though. I forgot to mention something about row 2. You want to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 chain 1 spaces. So make sure that as you're working your block, you have 12 chain 1 spaces, and then you're going to have the solid row that's always going to have 25. So now that we've created our first 3 rows, we're just going to continue on repeating row 2, which has our chain 1 spaces, and row 3 that works in the top of our chain 1 spaces and our double crochet. We're going to work this until our block is approximately 7 inches square. I'm going to work this till I'm about the halfway point, and I'll meet up with you to see how we're doing. I'm coming up here to the end of one of the rows. That's one of our repeats of row 3. There's our last double crochet in a chain 1 space, and then a double crochet in the top of our chain here to complete that row. Let's take a look. We're about halfway. Let's take a look and see how our block is shaping up. You should have nice even edges here on the side, and you should have a pattern of a solid row followed by a row with spaces in between. Okay, if you've noticed that your work is starting to turn in a little bit, your count may be off, go back and find where your count was even, where you had either 25 stitches on a solid row or the 12 spaces. If you don't have anything else than that, you're off on your count. You need to take your work out until you get to the proper place and then start over, and make sure you pay attention to your count. So just make sure that your work isn't turning in to make a triangle. Make sure it isn't veering out either. You don't want to accidentally add an extra stitch. You should have nice straight edges. Okay, I'm, like I said, about halfway done here. I'm going to continue on until my block is approximately 7 inches square, and I'll meet up with you there. Coming up here at the end of what I think is going to be the last row for my block, I've just completed a double crochet into the top of this double crochet. I'm going to place one into our chain 1 space here, and then place one more in the top here of our chain 3. Again, trying to make sure I get 2 loops on that hook there. There we go. Let's remove our hook and see how we're looking. So you can see I've repeated row 2 and 3. Let's see, 1 more, 2 more, 3 more, 4 more times. I've ended on a solid row. You want to do your best to end on a solid row because we started with a solid row way down here. You want it to be symmetrical. If you ended with this open, your work is going to look a little cattywampus there. So let's fold our work over, see how our block is looking, see if we're about square here. I'm going to fold this corner over to this corner here. Look at that. That measures up pretty good. That lines up pretty good there. Say we're about where we need to be with this block. I don't want to go any bigger. So let's go ahead and unfold this. So now that our block is where we want it to be, we're going to go ahead and do not fasten off this color. You're going to want to complete round 1 of your edging. The link to that is in the description box below. Then fasten off, then complete round 2 of your edging with whatever color you've determined you're going to use to join all of your squares together. Typically color A. Okay, so finish that off, and then once you get your edging on, the only thing that you have left to do is grab yourself a little tag and mark on here week 57, the alternate mesh stitch completed in color C, and then add this to the rest of your blocks and put them away for safekeeping until we're ready to put our Afghan together. Well, thank you so much for joining me here in the craft room today and completing yet another block for our beautiful Afghan. Until I see you next time for block 58, the soft clusters stitch. Be sure to take care of yourself, take care of each other, and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.